Single-use plastics have become an integral part of our daily lives. From the morning coffee cups to water bottles, takeout containers to grocery bags, seamlessly they touch every part of the day. Do we ever stop to wonder where they eventually end up? We discard 160 million tons of single-use plastics every year, equivalent to the weight of 400 Empire State Buildings. Out of this, only 12% gets recycled. A staggering 70% reaches the landfills, while 5% pollutes our oceans. And the scariest part, they don't disappear, they come back to us in the form of microplastics, infiltrating our food chain. That delicious wild caught salmon from your favorite restaurant probably has microplastics in them. What if these plastic wastes can be used to solve another critical mineral challenge? How many of us use smartphones? Almost everyone. Lithium ion batteries powering everyday gadgets from smartphones and laptops to clean energy alternatives like electric vehicles all depend on graphite. The United States currently imports over $120 million worth of graphite every year, making it the world's largest importer. Without any active domestic graphite mines, meeting the growing demand for clean energy comes with significant supply risks. And that raises a third challenge: where does graphite come from? Traditionally, graphite is made from carbon rich byproducts of crude oil or coal tar, resources that are already scarce. The demand for these raw materials, called precursors, is only growing. This is where my research makes a difference, an intersecting solution to three pressing challenges: escalating plastic pollution, a surging graphite market, and declining precursor resources. My name is Sakshi, a third year doctoral candidate from the Department of Energy and Mineral Engineering, and I upcycle waste plastics into high quality graphite using graphenic additives. We collect consumer end waste plastics, combine them with graphenic additives, and subject them to a two-step thermal process. I work with two types of graphenic additives to understand how different structural factors influence graphite formation. The first is graphene, a single atomic layer of carbon atoms arranged in a perfect hexagonal honeycomb structure, the fundamental building block of graphite. The second is graphene oxide, which is just graphene that's chemically modified with oxygen containing groups on its surface and edges, making it more reactive than graphene. Complementary characterization techniques such as Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy, selected area electron diffraction, transmission electron microscopy, X ray diffraction, and Raman spectroscopy are used to understand and validate the formation of graphite. I've identified three critical factors that control the graphitic quality. First, the reactive oxygen functional groups at the graphene layer edges. Second, the oxygen groups sitting on the flat surface of the layer, called the basal plane. And third, a stacking height limitation. Imagine trying to build a perfectly aligned tower of cards. There's only so many layers that additive can hold in alignment before the stacking order breaks down, directly limiting the graffiti quality we can achieve. In essence, the graphenic additive acts as an initiating agent, guiding carbon atoms into the perfectly flat stacked sheets that define graphite structure, while becoming part of the carbon structure itself. Think of it like adding a spoonful of yogurt to milk to make more yogurt. So, why is this better?
Traditional synthetic graphite production relies on metal catalysts like iron, nickel, and cobalt, which require expensive acid washing downstream steps to achieve the purity batteries demand. My approach eliminates these steps entirely. Not just this, precursors such as petroleum coke cost $700 per metric ton, whereas my starting material waste plastic costs nothing. This isn't just recycling, but upcycling at its finest, converting waste into a critical material the world desperately needs.
The next time you eat or drink from a plastic container, remember it is a battery waiting to be built. a solution to not one, not two, but three major global challenges, an effort that not only protects us but also powers our future. I am immensely grateful to my advisor, Dr. Randy Vanderwalt, for his incredible guidance and support throughout this journey. I am also thankful to the funding provided by the National Science Foundation, without which this work would not have been possible. Thank you.